What's wrong with a variety show host? Introduction. You're so talented, why do you want to be a variety show host? Faced with a question from netizens, Lee was also very puzzled. As a traffic person, isn't it a professional match for me to participate in variety shows? Also, what's wrong with the variety show? 1. The adventurer was shot in the knee with an arrow. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Blue Star, Beijing. In the apartment, Lee also received the program invitation letter from his agent. Seeing the program name, 3 Meals a Day, his eyebrows raised. The pace of life in modern society is getting faster and faster, and many people have the idea of escaping the city and returning to rural life. Simple nature. Working at sunrise and resting at sunset, guests are self-sufficient, isn't this really the life of longing for? Lee became more familiar as he looked at it, but it has been more than 10 days since he traveled, so he doesn't find it strange. On the whole, there is no difference between Blue Star and the Earth. The history is the same and the technology level is the same. There are Alipay, WeChat, Weibo and even some automobile and clothing brands on the Earth. Just I understand everything I know. Lee hasn't watched much of The Life of Longing For, but he has seen some clips online. Combined with the feedback from netizens, this is a program of eating, drinking, chatting, and welcoming. Is there a variety show that can be more comfortable, relaxed, and enjoyable than this? Even if there are differences in this episode of 3 Meals a Day, I'm sure it won't be too much. After learning that he is currently a popular celebrity, Lee also plans to become a variety show host in the future. One is because it is easy, and the other is because it makes money. Compared to starting filming in just 1 or 2 months, variety shows are undoubtedly much more comfortable. Back circle. It is impossible to retract the circle. My original identity can only be considered as Xiaohong, probably at the bottom of the second tier, with relatively few jobs. However, after 2.5 years of debut, I had more than 2 million yuan in savings, as well as a large G worth 1 million yuan. Although there is still a long way to go from 208, what about Lee himself? I just graduated from school and found a job in Yangqing that earned 4,000 yuan after deducting social security. If it doesn't include him often going to bars, music restaurants, and other places to sing and earn extra income, do you want to save $2 million? Don't eat, don't drink, and work for 40 years. I don't know why my original self always couldn't take it seriously. I didn't do well in terms of traffic, and I didn't have enough bad money. I just wanted to be an artist in the entertainment industry. Anyway, I managed to make it to the second tier and surprisingly only had a small amount of savings. Speaking of which, the original body is also a rare clear flow in the flow of traffic. Graduated from the Beijing Film Academy, I have been diligent and kind to people since entering the industry. I never complain about being tired while filming, and I am self-disciplined and self-loving. I work hard in my daily life, and in my spare time, I read books to recharge and hone my acting skills. I hope to one day become a visual and film emperor, and an artist with both virtue and art. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. Recently, the newly aired drama was mocked by the entire internet, and during that time, it was criticized and hit the trending list every few days. Good news. Drama has become popular. Bad news. Everyone is cursing him. The effort did not yield results, and the original body had serious doubts about itself, feeling frustrated, and the person disappeared like this. Everyone is struggling, are you taking it so seriously? Every time he recalls his original experiences, Lee also feels so emotional. No exaggeration, no blackmail. The original performance is not as bad as people say, but rather too outstanding in the traffic. The previous drama was mocked by the group, there must be his own reasons. But more often than not, it's because the director is casual, the character design is not pleasing, the plot is also bad, and there are people behind the scenes with a rhythm, which makes them criticized as nothing. The original company, on the other hand, had no public relations and caused a huge uproar in public opinion. My little brother. Can you pick me up? Why don't you just say something? The agent on the side, Yige Er, saw that Lee also had been silent after reading the invitation letter, thinking that he had made a mistake again and was unwilling to participate in any variety shows. This program is different from those before. You don't need to go up and pretend to be stupid, there's no character, and you don't need to hype up CP. Also, I begged you for it just because I was rolling around. If you still don't want to do it. Yige Er is a bit chubby, with a round face and glasses on. He looks a bit like He Shaoan when he grows up, but his speech is not as gentle as others. The reason behind this is not only a cooperative relationship between the two, but also a good friend. Yige Er is 3 years older than his original self, but the two have been playing since childhood. I decided to become an artist in Jingying, thanks to Yige Er's deception. At this moment, Yige Er's face was red and his ears were red, and he was both anxious and angry. Because of his original memory, Lee also knew how well the other person treated him, and his heart was still moved. Although Yige Er has an old uncle who works as the deputy director of the Mango program department, Lee Yi's current public opinion environment is not good, and the effort spent on this program is definitely not small. Just as Lee Yi was about to speak, Yige Er slowed down and said, "The fact before us now is that we don't have so many choices. Attending variety shows is not about making money, well, making money is also part of it. But mainly to get rid of our current situation. If we keep going like this, besides a bad drama, where else will anyone come to us? Wake up." He continued to ponder bitterly. This program is actually similar to going to a farmhouse. You can just go relax and give yourself a chance to relax. Lee Yi spread his hands and said, "I didn't say I wouldn't take it." That's right. Yige Er breathed a sigh of relief. If it didn't work out yet, the next step would be to start shedding small pearls like before. How much is it? Lee also pretended to ask casually. When it comes to 350, I won't add them. Speaking of this, Yige Er's mood became less beautiful, but he still forced a smile and said, "It's okay, it's a bit less than before, but we're not here for money." "I'm just here for money." Lee Yi felt so heartbroken that he almost couldn't breathe. According to the original notice fee of at least 40,000 yuan, it has been reduced by about half, and it is also the money he can earn by working for decades. However, when I thought that the money and the company were only 50 or 50 cents, it seemed that I didn't feel that uncomfortable anymore when I went to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Second-tier artists naturally cannot have a 50% contract, but what Lee also refers to as a company is actually a grassroots team. The company owner is Yige Er, and Lee also holds 10% of the shares himself. There is only Yige Er as the agent, and besides Lee Yi, there is now only one young singer from the 18th tier left. If it weren't for this young singer running for commercial performances, the company might not have earned as much money as Lee Yi. With this in mind, Lee didn't feel embarrassed to dwell any longer. He spoke of his plans and said, "Jia, let me know the script in advance so that I can find more variety shows in the future." Lee never thought about continuing to perform in his original persona, but the sudden transformation was too significant, inevitably causing concern from those around him, so he didn't directly say that he wanted to become a variety artist. Yige Er lifted his glasses in surprise, unable to touch Lee Yi's thoughts. "Are you joking or using words to block people?" "I've come to understand that variety shows are actually meaningful things, at least they can make people happy and pass the time." Lee Yi-sen said, "If you can still make people lie down, you can earn money." Upon hearing these words, Yige Er was greatly moved. Although Lee didn't say anything else, Yige Er knew that Lee also made the change for him. At the same time, a little sad. During the journey, the adventurer was still shot in the knee. Thinking of Lee Yi's hard work and perseverance since entering the industry, Yige Er cursed, "The entertainment industry in Dog Day is so cannibalistic that it's hard to spit out bones." Damn it, if you have the strength, you can't do traffic. If you do traffic, you have to be like their bunch of rotten garlic. Grass. Jiagu, stop cursing Li Yisin, who really wants to join the rotten garlic, has feelings of concern. 2. Something's wrong. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Yige couldn't hear Li Yi's don't in his heart, and gradually entered a better state, beginning to deify. One by one, name major entertainment companies and artists who have competed for resources, and spit profusely at them. Finally, Li also boasted fiercely in the sky before leaving. What is the last clear stream in the entertainment industry? What is the last fig leaf in the entertainment industry? What is the posture of a superstar after a series of operations? Li Yi's head became dizzy. He went to the bathroom to wash his face and looked in the mirror, only then did he not feel so guilty. There is a face that stands with Zunlong, Wu Yanzu, Bai Gu, and Qidian readers without falling behind. What's wrong with not being proactive? What's wrong with making rotten garlic? Not really, although Li also wants to be a jerk, he can't even lose face. Returning to the converted esports room from his study, Li also sat down in the comfortable and soft boss's chair, turned on his computer, entered his password, and opened a document that displayed his income from more than 10 days of labor. Li also worked part-time as a resident singer at a music bar on his way home, saving 2 drowning teenagers. However, due to physical exhaustion, he quickly closed his eyes in the water and entered this world. Perhaps the reason for doing good deeds is that his physical fitness has significantly improved, his memory has also improved significantly, and the memories of his past life seem to be imprinted in his mind. Li also did not have particularly great ambitions, nor did he break free from vulgar bad tastes, such as pretending to be forced. There is a very insightful saying. Pretending to be forced is a sustained and strong demand that transcends times, regions, races, and social classes. This is also one of the important reasons why he never considered withdrawing from the circle. The traffic has a time limit, and variety shows are not easy to become. The memories of the previous life are the confidence for Li Yi to survive. A week later, on June 10, in Tonglu, Jiangnan, in a small village. Last night, Li also met with the hotel, program team, and 2 other permanent guests to discuss recording-related topics and get to know each other better. The director's name is Wang Huizhong, and he is a great variety show director who has produced many high-quality programs. As a behind-the-scenes person, my popularity is not low, and many viewers are watching variety shows for Wang Huizhong. The 2 permanent guests are named Lin Dan and Zhang Lei respectively. Lin Dan is the pillar of Mango Stage, a national-level host, and has excellent popularity in the industry. This resume looks a bit like He Jiong from his previous life, but he debuted as a singer and transitioned to become a host. He is not much shorter than Li, about 1.78 meters tall, and has already married and had children. Zhang Lei has a slightly plump figure and is a music producer, actor, and film director. The first identity is that of an industry expert, and an actor can also be considered a frontline actor, but the director has not yet achieved outstanding results. Lin Dan is delicate in all aspects and treats people like a spring breeze brushing his face. Zhang Lei, on the other hand, is somewhat arrogant and treats Li with indifference, which is a way of showing unfamiliarity. However, currently it seems that they are not difficult to get along with. After learning about the guest lineup and production lineup, Li also understood why Yige was so anxious at the time. Yige also came along, brushing his face up and down to say hello, and giving some small gifts. Please take good care of Li as well. Then he hurriedly left and took a plane to Xinjiang, saying that he wanted to contact his uncle to get in touch with him. The next day, Li also got up early, greeted the 2 teachers, and did some simple makeup and hair in the hotel. Afterwards, I boarded the program team's car alone and set off for the recording location. You used to rarely record variety shows, it seems like it's your first time being a regular guest and participating in an outdoor reality show. Why did you decide to participate in 3 meals a day this time? In the car, the co-pilot's director repeatedly asked questions. Because I have always felt that I don't have a strong sense of variety shows and I have some social anxiety in real life, so I don't dare to go on variety shows very much. The theme of 3 meals a day is to escape from the fast-paced modern society and return to the essence of life. I think I will enjoy this kind of living state very much, said Yige, who first answered and then slightly praised the program. The director glanced at the rearview mirror and couldn't help but turn back and say, "Do you call this social anxiety?" At this moment, Yige was completely sitting in the back seat, crooked and twisted, in an extremely relaxed state, no matter how comfortable it was. The streaming artists that this director has come into contact with have always paid great attention to their own image during the recording period. They not only sit upright, but also do not relax as casually as Lee. However, the director did not find anything inappropriate, and instead could feel a lazy beauty from Yige. It can only be said that even if a handsome guy is lying on the ground playing a glass ball, he is still handsome. During the QA process, the car arrived at its destination. Not far ahead, a tiled house stands alone on the edge of a field, surrounded by stone mills that are less than a meter high. The house is located at a high place, and Lee can also see the figures of 2 other guests walking back and forth to visit the house. When I was bored, I finally received a notification to appear. In the entertainment industry, I step onto Malay spicy food. Teacher Zhang and Teacher Lin, I'm here. Lee also carried a backpack and quickly stepped up the stairs, pushing open the door of the yard and showing his big white teeth. He is not familiar with the 2 of them. He has appeared on Lin Dan's program before, and Zhang Lei saw him for the first time yesterday. But if you want to get along well, you must have a thicker skin and be more familiar with it. Is it difficult to wait for 2 seniors to take the initiative to show kindness to you? In his previous life, he had already taken on part-time jobs to support himself, and Li Yishan deeply understood these principles. Come on, shall we? Lin Dan walked over enthusiastically, while Zhang Lei stood under the eaves, smiling and nodding. Entering the room and putting away his backpack, Li also followed Lin Dan to familiarize himself with the house. There are 2 rooms and 2 toilets in total, obviously prepared for female artists. Both rooms are a large bunk, divided into 5 beds. There is a row of wardrobes at the end of the bed, making the room a bit crowded. Apart from the bathroom having a water heater, there is also a large ceiling fan in each room and living room, so I haven't seen any other smart appliances. The kitchen has a complete set of pots, bowls, ladles, and basins, as well as rice, flour, grains, oil, and various seasonings. But there are only 2 stoves and a rusty faucet with very little water output. No, why do I feel different? Li Yiming remembers yearning for a completely modern life with air conditioning, a refrigerator, a gas stove, and even a special ice cream machine. Many people online criticize the life of longing for being tasteless, and guests are completely enjoying it. Do you say you yearn or not? But except for the house being renovated, which looks antique and has a unique style, everything else here is no different from the houses in the countryside before. Something's wrong, it's very wrong. 3 guests, please come out and listen to the program rules. After a while, the program director Wang Huizhong was shouting outside. The 3 of them came to the eaves holding enamel cups filled with cool white water, and casually sat down on the wooden floor. The more he listened, Li Yi's heart sank, realizing that 3 meals a day was completely different from what he had anticipated. I have to work hard every day to exchange ingredients for 3 meals a day. And labor is a large paddy field prepared by the production team for them, as well as pre-planted rice that can be harvested soon, and some miscellaneous work. Considering that guests may not know how to farm, we exchange ingredients based on working hours. We advocate for humanized management, and there will naturally be a reward system at zhaoshuyuan.com. We will reward guests with an additional 0.5 working hours based on their work attitude and efficiency. Balabala was a pile, and Wang Huizhong threw away a price list without giving any chance to argue. 1 kilogram of meat requires 5 working hours, 2 working hours for fruits and vegetables, and 1 working hour for alcoholic beverages. Damn it, Yige Er. After reading the price list, Li also got up and walked straight into the room. Lin Dan quickly asked, "Xiaoyi, why are you going?" "I haven't even taken out my luggage, so I should still have time to go back now," Li said as he walked. "What am I doing on variety shows for? It's just to make money easily. I worked hard before becoming a celebrity, but after becoming a celebrity, I also worked hard. Isn't it in vain for me to be a celebrity?" Li Yi can tell that the name of this program is not wrong. I really have to work hard every day for the 3 meals of this day, not eating is not enough. As a national-level host, Lin Dan naturally has a good sense of variety show. Upon hearing this, he quickly pulled Zhang Lei up and said, "Brother Lei, let's go together." Coincidentally, the luggage of the 3 of them had not been opened yet. Li also carried his bag, while Zhang Lei and Lin Dan pulled their suitcases and walked towards the door like this. And Wang Huizhong, a variety show director, is not bad at overall performance. First, let the staff stop them from leaving, then slowly walk up to the 3 of them with sunglasses on and hands behind, like a villainous boss. He tilted his head to signal to a staff member beside him, who respectfully handed over 3 contracts. Wang Huizhong casually accepted the contract and presented it to the 3 of them one by one. After the presentation, I tilted my lips and smiled. 3. Can these days go on? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Faced with such a capable production team, Li can only say. 6. The sales contract was in the hands of the other party, and the 3 of them looked at each other. Li Yi's face was full of sadness and anger. Is your heart black? He naturally acted too, but cursing is also really cursing. Lin Dan couldn't help but glance at Li Yi, secretly surprised by his reaction. Not long after arriving, there were 2 waves of program effects, both of which gave good feedback. Previously, Li also appeared on his program. Not to mention the overall effect of the program, he didn't say a few words and was very submissive and reserved. Did you grow after experiencing setbacks? Huizhong, you have really changed now. Zhang Lei was heartbroken, but in the next second, he quickly reached out and grabbed Wang Huizhong while he was feeling proud. You haven't changed at all, you're still so rude. Wang Huizhong became even more proud. Fortunately, I had already taken precautions. Unable to do anything, the 3 of them had to turn their heads back to the room and put their luggage away, then sit in the living room sighing and blowing fans. Unlike Li Yi's preconceived approach to the life of longing for, Zhang Lei and Lin Dan have a better understanding of the program content and are somewhat prepared. But at this moment, all 3 inexplicably reached a tacit understanding. Showing a pessimistic attitude towards living here. Wang Huizhong in the monitoring room watched their every move and unconsciously smiled. No matter how much planning is done in advance for a variety show, the final program effect still needs to be presented by the guests. Especially in slow synthesis, there are no confrontational elements, and the interaction between guests is particularly important. Now it seems that the 3 permanent guests clearly have a good chemical reaction. When Director Gao of Mango Terrace stepped in, Wang Huizhong was still very unhappy. Unexpectedly, the person who gave the program a good start was actually Li Yi, who was stuffed in. In the living room, the 3 people's sighs did not last long. Everyone seemed to understand the principle that too much is not enough, and they tacitly shifted the topic. Give us a name for our house, it's easier to remember. This is Lin Dan's proposal to name a dilapidated house without any reason, which is clearly a task assigned by the program team. Lin Dan gave a name and said, how about the countryside cottage? It's a bit ordinary, why not call it Nanshangxia? Zhang Lei and Lin Dan have been good friends for many years, and they don't have much hesitation when talking. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he denied it himself, showing a slight lack of elegance. Xiaoyi, do you have any ideas? The two of them looked at Li Yi and he blurted out, Mushroom House. This is fine. Lin Dan praised with a look on his face. Zhang Lei nodded repeatedly, looking at Li Yi with a hint of surprise, and said, the house provides us with shelter from wind and rain. Mushrooms are a bit appropriate and have a warm feeling. I think it's good. No one objected, so the mushroom house was settled. Li also suddenly understood why a house still has a name, which can deepen the memory for variety shows. At least he didn't take it seriously and knew the name Mushroom House. It was soon noon when Wang Huizhong appeared in front of everyone and brought in 2 pet cages. In the cage, there is a small Shiba dog and a small blue cat with a round head and a round brain. This is your partner. Wang Huizhong squatted on the ground and released them. The little Shiba dog is lively and active, not afraid of people. It runs over with its tongue sticking out and circles around the 3 people. The little blue cat, on the other hand, peeked out and crawled back into the cage, lazily lying down. Li Yi roast. What's the matter with you, director? We can't keep our own pets anymore, so we have to keep pets. Lin Dan, who was touching the dog's head with a smile, also realized, yes, if you want us to keep them, you have to pay for their meals. Nowadays, pets are even more delicate than humans. Why do we have to have 100 or 200 meals a day? Zhang Lei pretended and calculated. This is not a pet, it's your companion, and our program team will provide dog food and cat food. Wang Huizhong bit to death and then said, in order to celebrate the housewarming of the 3 guests, the program team has specially prepared some gifts for everyone. Pork ribs, beef each, as well as garlic sprouts, carrots, and green peppers. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. The 3 of them immediately smiled and smiled, although they all felt that Wang Huizhong was ill-intentioned, they still accepted it with a smile on their faces. What should I have for lunch? But the question came, Zhang Lei said, I can get started, but cooking is average. Which one of you is better at cooking? Zhang Lei's main focus is on Li Yi, who and Lin Dan have a deep understanding of each other. Holy crap! Li also widened his eyes in disbelief, suspecting whether he had hallucinations. Big brother, aren't you the positioning of Huang Xiaochu? You two are both of your age and well-known celebrities both inside and outside the industry. You expect me, a person who is not diligent in cooking, doesn't care about food, and has high expectations but low skills, to cook. Li also wanted to point at their noses and ask, but could only hold it in his heart and say in a muffled voice, I'm just okay. After a moment of silence, Zhang Lei felt that as the oldest person, he had to take on a heavy responsibility. He coughed twice and said, I'll come, but I'm really not joking. I don't know if it's good or not, I can only guarantee that the poison won't die. Zhang Lei carried the vegetables to the kitchen, while Li Yi and Lin Dan followed to get some help. Zhang Lei obviously doesn't cook very often, and cutting meat is a bit difficult and clumsy. However, being old also has its advantages. At least I have experience burning firewood, and the stove can start. But when I saw him pouring oil suddenly again, and before the oil was hot, I put the pork belly in and stir-fry it randomly during this period. Li didn't even have time to interject. Seeing Zhang Lei focused and serious, he remained silent. Garlic sprouts and pork belly are served in pots and plates. Zhang Lei feels that their appearance is not good, so he continues to patch them up. I haven't cooked my own food for decades, and I've only recently started learning how to cook. Please make do with it. It smells good when asked, let me taste it. The taste is good. You. Lin Dan tasted a piece of pork belly, and before his eyes even lit up, tears began to seep out. Zhang Lei smiled awkwardly and said, there's a bit too much oil. Seeing the garlic sprouts and pork belly filled with oil below, Li almost couldn't hold his breath. It was true that they were just poisonous and wouldn't die. Let me make a stir-fried beef with green peppers. Li Yi's cooking skills may not be very good, but he definitely won't stir-fry pork belly like Zhang Lei and add oil too aggressively. The pork has already been stir-fried, so Li only cut half of the beef and kept the rest for dinner. Cutting meat and vegetables, Li Yi's knife skills are not only very skilled, but it can also be seen that he often cooks in an orderly manner. Zhang Lei and Lin Dan felt saved first, and then they felt a little guilty. After all, the youngest Lin Dan has eaten more rice than Li Yi for 10 years. Marinate the beef and stir-fry in the pan. In just a few minutes, the fresh and hot green pepper beef came out of the pot, and just selling it looked much better than Zhang Lei's stir-fried pork with garlic sprouts. Wow, I didn't expect you to still have this skill. It seems like you still have a hobby of cooking. Lin Dan supported and applauded. It's okay, but I still like to order takeout on a regular basis. Li also squeezed out a smile. Having been in this world for half a month, he has been taking out expensive food every day and occasionally going out for a meal. You don't have to buy groceries to cook, you don't have to wash dishes or cook pots, you can eat any kind of cuisine, and life is so enjoyable. How could you possibly have the hobby of cooking? Alright, just these 2 dishes. You can add pork rib soup tonight. Li Dao said, going to the living room to eat. The kitchen is too hot here. After going to the living room, the 3 of them found something missing. Where's the rice? I forgot to cook. Lin Dan felt a bit embarrassed, so he helped deliver the things throughout the process. This should be his job. Teacher Lin is fine, let me come to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Li also stood up quickly. Zhang Lei was afraid that he wouldn't make a fire, so he followed him to the kitchen. Lin Dan naturally felt embarrassed to be an old man waiting for the meal to arrive, so he ran ahead and said, I'm here to clean the rice. Let me watch the fire later, otherwise I won't be able to help with this meal at all. Starting a new fire in the extinguished stove, Li also gave way to Lin Dan, which can be considered as an interpretation of the function of a toilet paper. Zhang Lei, who was planning to help start the fire, was surprised and said, Xiao Yi, how old are you this year? You used to burn firewood. Lin Dan added a stick of firewood to the stove and, with a slight exaggeration, self-deprecatingly said, I don't know how to cook or burn firewood. Compared to Xiao Yi, I feel like I've been living for so many years in vain. It's 26 since my birthday. When I was young, I used to burn firewood in my hometown. Li Yi first answered Zhang Lei's question, then looked at Lin Dan and said, it's like burning firewood. If you've had contact with it, it would be fine. If you haven't had contact with it, it wouldn't be fine. Teacher Lin is such a skilled host, and I don't know how to do it either. This statement is reasonable. Everyone has different strengths and experiences, so there is no need to underestimate oneself. Zhang Lei summarized. A lunch was tossed and turned until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and after everyone was full, they were too lazy to tidy up the dishes and sat together on chairs in a daze. Then you look at me, I look at you, and coincidentally, I burst out laughing with a hint of bitterness. I really wanted to go home just now, Li Yi said seriously. Lin Dan asked, what about now? Li Yi. I think even more. Me too. Me too. Zhang Lei and Lin Dan spoke out one after another, both sighing with melancholy. Is it okay to just mess around with a lunch? For playing like this. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Got it, got it. In the monitoring room, Wang Huaizhong, who witnessed everything, was overjoyed, and this was the program effect he wanted. And it came better than he expected, faster. I thought the guests would only have the idea of escaping here after the first farming. I didn't expect them to be so useless. Oh no, it's not that good at manipulating things. 3 big men almost couldn't make a lunch. There is a kind of happiness built upon the pain of others. This statement may seem a bit biased, but it doesn't hurt much when used here. Wang Huaizhong is particularly looking forward to their first time working in the field. At 2:30 p.m., the sun was still very bright, and you could see layers of heat waves surging outdoors. Although there is a bamboo forest behind the mushroom house for shade, the interior is still a bit hot and dry. Just finished eating, the fan whizzed but couldn't dispel the heat. Zhang Lei and Lin Dan are still paying attention to their appearance, just fanning themselves out. And Li Yi lifted half of his shirt, rolled up the legs of his sports pants, straightened his legs, lowered his hands, twisted his head on the backrest, and opened his mouth slightly, staring out the door in a daze. His whole mind was scattered, half dead. It's completely disregarding the image, but fortunately, what's exposed is the abdominal muscles, not the belly. Zhang Lei and Lin Dan looked at him, then saw a small Shiba dog lying on the ground next to him, sticking out its tongue, and a lazy cat sleeping soundly with its eyes closed. For a moment, it was a bit like a scene from an anime. I haven't seen such an interesting young person in the circle for a long time. They are real, casual, and have good eyesight. Although nowadays there are various character designs within the circle. But the two of them have been in the industry for many years, and with their eyesight, it is natural to see that Li did not intentionally do so. If Li is able to perform to this level for the sake of character design, it means that his acting skills have become superb. Li also noticed that someone was looking at him, but he had no strength to pay attention. I'm not physically tired at all, but my heart is tired. A variety show is obviously impossible without any character, as Yige Er said. Last night, the director asked Li Yi what he had in mind. Li also said he had no idea, so the director asked him to play the role of son. How many parents will there be in the future if we recognize others as parents on the last program? Li was naturally unwilling and automatically understood this persona as a junior. Lin Dan, who is younger among the two, is one round older than him, and both have been in the industry for many years and have achieved success. There is no need to play the role of a junior. The question is, who is their junior now? Thinking of having to work on the ground every day and cook for them after the show, Li Yi's heart was exhausted. After 4 o'clock, the sun is not so big anymore. Lin Dan suggested going to the field to familiarize himself with the farming methods, so as not to cause any confusion when the guests come tomorrow. Although reluctant, Li still stood up at the first moment. Anyway, if you make this money, you need to cooperate well with the program recording. Alas, I still drifted away. I used to be a progressive young man. Li also reflected on himself. Before the release, someone told him to plant a field and cook a meal every day, not to mention a few 100,000 yuan, as long as there is a few thousand yuan, he can directly worship the other person as his adoptive father. The farmland contracted by the production team is right at the entrance of the yard, and it is unclear how many acres there are, as it covers a large area. Half of it is empty, and half of the production team has already planted rice in advance. It looks verdant and tender green, and most of it has already produced ears of grain. It should not be long before it matures. A gust of hot wind blows, the rice fields make a loud noise, and there is also a unique fragrance. Looking further away, surrounded by mountains, it is lush and full of greenery. But Li didn't feel the beauty either, he just felt the sun and heat. On the field ridge, Lin Dan walked ahead, and Li also walked behind. Oh, my goodness! As we walked, a mournful cry came from ahead. It turned out that Lin Dan slipped and fell into the paddy field. Zhang Lei, who was walking in the middle, quickly stepped forward and helped Lin Dan up. Let's just recognize the place today. Anyway, there's still food to cook tonight. It's not too late to work when the guests come tomorrow, he said. Isn't that good? Lin Dan scanned the soil on his body and pretended to be embarrassed. Yeah, that's not good. Before he could finish speaking, Li Yi had already turned around and walked back. However, Teacher Lin's clothes are almost completely wet, so it must be very uncomfortable. Let's accompany Teacher Lin back to change clothes first. Lin Dan is speechless. Am I a 3-year-old child? Do I still need 2 people to accompany me back to change clothes? But when I thought about it, it was for the sake of the program's effectiveness. That's right, Lee also definitely didn't want to slack off, just to get things done. So, the 3 of them went out for less than 5 minutes and returned to the mushroom house. The first time I went to work, it ended unexpectedly, abruptly, and dramatically, which no one in the production team had anticipated. At this moment, some people in the monitoring room were holding back their laughter, some were laughing out loud, and some were worried that the guest's behavior had deviated from the theme of the program. Director Wang, did we send too many ingredients? The speaker was the director in charge of interviewing Lee Yi today. How about I go communicate with him? She refers to Lee Yi. The youngest and most inexperienced, yet he has become a leader several times in a short period of time. I have never seen such an elusive and uncontrollable artist since entering the industry. When interviewed in the car, she felt something was wrong. At present, it seems that her feelings are completely correct. From Lee Yi's body, there was no trace of social anxiety, nor any trace of fear of going on variety shows. On the contrary, he appeared very relaxed, even subtly driving the rhythm of the 2 predecessors. It's like Bald Brother breaking into the women's dormitory, and Golden Dragon entering the sea belongs to him. The program's effect is interesting, but it deviates a bit from the main theme. You have to work, you have to farm. No need to communicate. Let them play on their own. The ingredients won't be available until tomorrow morning at most. Wang Huizhong shook his head. Due to Lee Yi's series of actions, the program seems to have undergone some changes, but currently the results are even better than expected, so there is no need to interfere. Just started. Looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, Wang Huizhong had a mischievous smile on his face and said, I don't know the fragrance of good food and dishes, how could I work diligently? There's no housewarming ceremony, it's just a nest made by a fisherman. The recording time of this program is 4 days and 3 nights. Such a long time is enough to trigger a frenzy. Unlike the various situations during lunch, Lee was also the head chef in the evening, and the other 2 started working together on time and smoothly to finish dinner. After a full meal, the phone rang inside the room. Lin Dan said, Xiaoyi, please answer the phone. It's probably a guest who will come tomorrow. Li Yizai realized that there was still a phone in the living room, and his heart immediately lifted. Oh no, is there also an ordering section here? Hello, may I ask if this is 3 meals a day? The voice on the phone clearly used a voice changer, and it was probably a man's voice. Yes. Hello, I am your guest for tomorrow and I would like to order. Sorry, the signal on my end is a bit bad. May I ask what you just said? I want to. Previous sentence. Is it 3 meals a day here? No, you called the wrong number. With a snap, Lee quickly put down the microphone and turned to Lin Dan with a smile, saying, it's not the customer who dialed the wrong number. We're not a restaurant here, he actually wants to order. It's so funny. It's really unlucky, even Huang Xiao chef doesn't have the courage. How could the production team have the courage to make guests order? Well, I think I made a mistake. Lin Dan nodded and then looked at Li Yi with a shocked expression as he pretended to accidentally cut off the phone line. No, buddy, are you playing like this? 5. Yige Er. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. To be honest, Lin Dan was stunned. The phone line connected to the phone has a buckle, and Li's careless behavior is very obvious. I was just marveling at how much better Li Yi's sense of variety has really improved, even answering a phone call can produce results. I never expected Li to even unplug his phone line. This job is a bit big. Lin Dan even dares to pat his chest and say that after so many years in the industry, apart from specific scripts, he has never seen such a bold artist playing on a program. What's wrong? Zhang Lei, who had just taken a shower, heard the commotion and walked over, wiping his hair with a towel and asking. Li Yidao said, it's not a big deal. Our phone may have been advertised, but someone just called to order food. Seeing that the phone line had been unplugged, Lin Dan's face was very strange again, and Zhang Lei was also a human spirit. In an instant, he realized what had happened. He not only didn't stop, but also joked, yes, the harassing phone calls now are too bad. Once exposed, it won't be peaceful. This phone can't be used anymore, why don't we just smash it? The two of them reached a consensus by looking at each other, and although Lin Dan still felt a bit bad, he was too lazy to say more. Not to mention, recording programs like this is quite interesting. But Wang Huizhong, who received notification from the staff, couldn't sit still and ran over just after taking a shower with his hair not even dried. Ordering dishes is a very important process. In fact, Wang Huizhong did not pay much attention to this segment before the recording of the program began. But the words and actions of these three guests are really a bit ostentatious. If there are no guests ordering, what if these three people really grit their teeth and eat soy sauce and rice without going to work? I didn't make a mistake on the phone, we do have the ordering process. Wang Huizhong directly took action and connected the phone line. After the guests come, they also have to work hard, and they can't take away the rewards, so it's okay to treat them with delicious food, isn't it? Very reasonable, unable to refute. Li also didn't expect to easily get through this stage. It's just a whole life, let's do whatever we love. Not long after, the phone rang again. Is that how you treat guests in your mushroom house? It's too much. The person calling this time is a woman, who is also using a voice changer. Balabara is a bunch of people and doesn't even have a chance to answer the phone. After finishing the program on the other side, Li Yicheng apologized sincerely, sorry, the person who just answered the phone was a temporary worker from our mushroom house. Hey, no wonder people love to use temporary workers. Record the next morning. On the first night of the program, Li also didn't sleep well, but he still woke up early. The two teachers were grinding their teeth and snoring, occasionally shaking their bodies, tormenting and accompanied by fear. After washing up, Li also went to the kitchen to make breakfast, instead of taking a walk like usual. The guest ordered the dishes and couldn't escape work today. Breakfast was the ribs saved last night. They cooked a simple version of congee with ribs, and the three ate it whole. Not long after, the guests arrived. Is anyone there? Is anyone there? The guest's voice is clear, and they arrive first before they arrive. Teacher Zhang, Teacher Lin, long time no see. The person coming is a man and a woman. The man's name is Zheng Chaoyang and the woman's name is Yang Jie. The two are a singing group with high national popularity, suitable for all ages. The name of the group is Oriental Star, which is somewhat similar to the Phoenix legend of the previous life according to the public impression. But they don't have too many memes on them. After a few pleasantries, Lin Dan introduced them and said, this is Li Yi. You can call him Xiao Yi, or you can call him Yige Er. Anyway, Lei Gu and I rely on Yige Er to survive here. Brother Yi. Yang Jie wore an inexplicable smile at the corner of her mouth and looked at Li Yi, are you a temporary worker in the mushroom room? Hello, Teacher Yang, and also hello, Teacher Zheng. Li also gave a polite greeting and said without changing his expression, the temporary worker was already kicked out of the program by us last night. Okay. Yang Jie didn't reveal it either. Then, as a formal employee, please treat us guests well. It can be seen that Zhang Lei and Lin Dan are quite familiar with each other. When they hugged, they were sincere and parted ways, talking about each other's recent changes with a smile on their faces. But for the two guests, being too familiar is not good either. Just arrived at the mushroom house, without even sitting down or drinking water, Zhang Lei called him to change clothes and followed him out with a bewildered expression. Everyone first went to the rice seedling field together. The seedlings are planted on a plastic container, arranged neatly in rows. Just take out the plastic underneath, roll it up one by one, put it in a basket, and transport it to the paddy field. The rice seedlings are quite heavy with the soil clumps, so everyone chooses 2 people to work together to move a basket. Zhang Lei was about to ask Li Yi to pretend less and lift one by himself, but he found that he had already filled 2 baskets and picked them up with a pole, walking silently towards the paddy field. Xiao. Is brother so fierce? Zheng Chaoyang saw that his and Zhang Lei's baskets were not as full as Li Yi's, and he couldn't even shout out the name Xiao Yi. Li Yi is handsome, with slightly white skin and a slim figure, not at all like a person who can do heavy work. The silhouette of slowly walking on the field ridge with a basket in hand creates a huge contrast. The young man has great health, Yang Jie sighed. Zhang Lei and Lin Dan's surprise was even greater than theirs. Yesterday, it was Li Yi who led them in cheating and playing tricks, becoming the leading big brother. We are the only real losers who have been playing for half a day. Are you pretending? But no one knew that Brother Yi was actually very regretful. It's too big. I thought my physical fitness would improve, so taking a responsibility is just a matter of sprinkling water. I have enough strength, but my shoulders are sore. But they have all been put up, and I don't want to give up halfway when looking for the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com. The sun in June morning was already very fierce, shining scorching on us. After moving the seedlings, everyone had already sweated a lot. Lin Dan weighed the weight of Li Yi's basket and sincerely praised, "Brother Yi, you are really amazing." "The young man's body is great," Yang Jie repeated, wiping her sweat. Li Yi, who was about to rub his shoulder, immediately became indifferent when faced with praise. The hand he placed on his shoulder only lightly patted the dust. Zhang Lei couldn't help but laugh and said, "It's okay, just rub it if it hurts. You're already strong enough, we can't even pick it up." Li also took a sudden breath of hot air and rubbed his shoulders with a grin on his face. Seeing him so sincere and funny, everyone burst into laughter. The roots of the seedlings are covered with soil blocks, so there is no need to bend down and transplant them one by one. Instead, the seedling throwing method is adopted, just control the spacing and throw them one by one. Life is not difficult, but with a big sun on top of my head, the muddy paddy field is full of obstacles every time I move. If I lower my head for a long time, my neck will also ache and be unbearable. It's still hard work. Keeping their heads down to work was also very boring. Not long after, everyone began to fish and chat, and the speed of work slowed down. Li Yi, who had been putting on a bad show and didn't want to work before, was actually very serious and appeared very silent. He remembered the days in his previous life when he followed his grandfather to work in the fields. Actually, this memory is not beautiful. I have to walk 1 or 2 kilometers alone to school every day. After school, I have to help with farm work. Every day is a repetitive meal, and if I don't want to work, I will be scolded. The cow grass is very heavy, but when living alone later on, it is this period of time that heals him. 6. Everyone is on their own, ordering their own dishes and cooking their own. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. As noon approached, the sun became increasingly poisonous. The remaining seedlings were moved to a cool place, and something was found to cover them. Everyone then went back to rest. Standing in the sun and fishing is not a beautiful thing. Everyone is sweating profusely, their mouth is dry, and their faces are red from the sun. Returning to the mushroom house, taking off the hat and sleeves, I always feel like I can see white mist rising. Take a sip of water, and after finishing, take a shower. No wonder Lin Dan has a good social connection. Even though he is thirsty and tired, he still takes care of others first and finds a cup to pour water into when he enters the house. Li also gulped down the cold white wine from the enamel cup and took a comfortable breath, finally feeling a hint of coolness. But it's not enjoyable at all. It would be great to have an icy drop. At this moment, Wang Huizhong pushed a car and appeared. The car was loaded with ingredients and fresh fruits, as well as chilled beer and cola. There is a sign above, written in big red letters. Small business, decline to negotiate. Ladies and gentlemen, may I ask if you need to make a purchase? Wang Huizhong almost wrote, "I am an unscrupulous businessman," on his face, so angry that Zhang Lei picked up a slipper and threw it at him. "Hey!" Wang Huizhong jumped and said, "I can't hit it. What stands out is a lowly person." Even after taking it, Li Yisin said it's no wonder Wang Huizhong, a variety show director, has such great popularity. Just for this shameless appearance, who is famous if he is not famous? After improving the performance of the show, Wang Huizhong didn't continue to play cheap and said, "Now you have a total of 12 working hours, including Li Yi's serious work attitude and impressive efficiency, and an additional 2 working hours will be rewarded." Upon hearing that only Li was rewarded, the other 4 felt guilty and then argued with reason. Unfortunately, there was no basket available, and Wang Huizhong remained unmoved. "Wow, the things here are so expensive." At this moment, Yang Jie learned about the price of the mushroom house and exclaimed in surprise, "How much time does it take for the 4 dishes I ordered last night?" Wang Huizhong replied, "The materials required for customers to order can only be packaged and purchased. After the discount, each dish will have 3 working hours." "I understand. Let's raise the price first and then offer a discount." Li Yi roast, and Wang Huizhong smiled but said nothing. Yang Jie immediately pleaded with Wang Huizhong, but to no avail. She apologized to Li Yi and the others, "Sorry, I thought you were going out to buy groceries and cook by yourselves." Zhang Lei joked, "If you put in more effort this afternoon, you'll make up for it." "He's joking." Lin Dan gave a calm expression and comforted, "At most, another 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon will be enough." Zheng Chaoyang and Yang Jie looked regretful and shouldn't have come to this program. Li, who observed in secret, also found it a bit funny, which is the downside of the acquaintance bureau. Yang Jie has no scruples when ordering dishes, and Zhang Lei and Lin Dan have no psychological burden when taking them to work. "It is true that we hurt each other." "Oh, what are you doing?" Wang Huizhong, who was enjoying the pain of others, suddenly shouted out in a hurry, "Stealing something, right?" It turned out that Li also didn't know when he picked up a handful of bananas from the car and quickly distributed them among the people. Li looked strange and said, "Don't you know you want to give customers a try when selling? What if this banana is not sweet?" Zhang Lei was very happy to see Wang Huizhong eat his food with a banana in his mouth and said, "This banana is average, don't buy it." Go ahead, go ahead." Wang Huizhong was speechless, but he did not continue to investigate. Finally, everyone had no intention of saving money. "I bought 1 pound of beef, half a pound of eggs, half a pound of vegetables for lunch, and the most important 2 cans of ice cream. It took 10.5 working hours. The ice-wide drop, worth 2 working hours, can only be poured with half an enamel cup per person, which is both luxurious and precious. If it weren't for the bad taste of leaking air, I would really want to pour it into a tall glass and slowly shake it." Li also sighed, causing everyone to laugh. "I really can't live this life anymore. I can't even change a can of cola for an hour while farming, and I can't even have the freedom to eat special cola." Lunch is hosted by Zhang Lei, and Li Yi is playing with Lin Dan. Whether it's delicious or not, that's it. If you're hungry, that's it. After dinner, Zheng Chaoyang took a chopstick of fried eggs with scallions and put it in his mouth. His face changed and he immediately returned to normal. "It's quite delicious," he said. Li beside him silently picked up the rice, thinking to himself that if he didn't eat well, he would eat too much, and it was quite delicious. "Has your emotional intelligence improved? To undermine my brother Lei's culinary confidence, he won't do it anymore, will you?" "Really? So it seems that Lei's cooking skills have improved. I'll give it a try too." Yang Jie was full of anticipation, and the next second she crazily grilled rice. "You guys try eating it with oatmeal, it tastes just right. Lin Dan took a different approach and discovered a new way to eat it. Xiao Yi, I still need you to cook in the future. My cooking is really not delicious, so I'll go back and learn for a few days. Zhang Lei said he had done his best. Not tasty. Then don't even eat. Lift table. JPG Li is also extremely angry. Yang Jie remembered something and asked, can you all cook the dishes I ordered? She ordered mapo tofu, spicy chicken, twice cooked pork and fish head tofu soup. Only Zhang Lei raised his hand and said he had made spicy chicken before, then silently put it down under the calm gaze of everyone. Are you treating someone who truly wants to cook for you like this? Li Yi really wanted to stand up and point at them, asking. Lei Gu wants to cook, who agrees, and who opposes? Everyone turned their gaze to Li Yi, who shook his head. I really don't know. He only cooks for the sake of survival, not to delve into culinary skills. Knowing some homemade stir-fry is enough, how could there be so many cuisines? Li also finds it difficult to understand why he can rank first in the mushroom house with his cooking skills. Why can't Zhang Lei even master the saltiness when stir-frying a dish? Why do you despise the food made by Zhang Lei? Welcome Chaoyang and Jie to our mushroom house as guests. Suddenly, Zhang Lei raised his glass and said, however, with our years of relationship, family is no longer better than family. So you are not guests either, just consider yourself your own home. Everyone raised their glasses happily, cola will replace wine. Zhang Lei coughed twice and said, Jie, can you cook the dishes you ordered? Li also almost couldn't help but shout, Teacher Zhang is awesome. In the afternoon, everyone got down to work at 4 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, Yang Jie and Zhang Lei went back to prepare dinner first. And the remaining 3 people worked an extra hour, earning enough working hours and immediately finished work. The production team may have had a good conscience and rewarded each person with an additional 1 working hour. After deducting the dinner expenses, there are still 6.5 working hours left, and tomorrow's breakfast is finally settled. I didn't eat well at noon, so I went down to work. Everyone was already hungry, their chests pressed against their backs. I don't know if it's because I'm too hungry or because Yang Jie's craftsmanship is really good, and everyone eats delicious food. During dinner, Zhang Lei had other thoughts and asked, when are you leaving? After checking the time, Zheng Chaoyang didn't hesitate to say, I have to leave tomorrow morning. Are you in such a hurry? Why don't you stay a few more days? We haven't seen each other for a long time. Let's go together after recording this episode. Zhang Lei sincerely suggested. Lin Dan hurriedly put down his bowl and looked for the book garden www.zhaosuiyuan.com. Yes, stay a few more days. The mountains, water, and scenery here are good, and it's quite nurturing. Indeed, Li Yigang wanted to speak up and agree. Yang Jie glared at the two and said, are you trying to reminisce about the past? Damn it, are you trying to keep us working and cooking? If allowed, she wants to escape the mushroom house overnight. Not only do you have to work in the fields, but you also have to order and cook your own dishes. It's pure to suffer. Who told her that coming to this program is equivalent to visiting a farmhouse? When it comes to making programs, women speak so rudely in every household. Zhang Lei knew that he couldn't be fooled anymore, and when he couldn't eat grapes, he said that they were sour. Actually, your cooking is just average, and even if you don't, my brother's cooking is delicious, he said when I joined our team, I called myself Brother E. Li also ate melon and ate it on himself. The next second, Zhang Lei persisted and asked, are you really not considering staying? Li E. 6. To be honest, the whole job still requires Zhang Lei. The mushroom house at night is much more comfortable, with a gentle breeze and the rustling of bamboo forests. I lit a mosquito repellent in the yard, and everyone sat on small lounge chairs chatting and farting, watching the stars and the moon. But after working all day, everyone was tired and yawned incessantly before 11 o'clock. When Li Yi was about to lay a floor in the living room, Wang Huizhong called him out. "Xiao Yi, there's something I need to tell you," Wang Huizhong said with an apologetic expression on his face. "What's going on?" Li is also full of confusion. Could it be that a big shot has arrived and he thinks this variety show has the potential to become popular? He is preparing to replace me. Can this is a good thing? It's about tomorrow's guests, Wang Huizhong explained, without letting Li also continue to think about good things. 7. Can I still be suppressed by him? You are listening at novelfull.audio. What's wrong with tomorrow's guests? Li also didn't know why, but his heart moved. Could it be that the guest who came tomorrow had a grudge against me? Wang Huizhong gave a name and said, "One of the people who called to order tonight is Wei Yang." Oh. Li also nodded clearly. It turned out to be Pure divided by. As expected, the first name that came to his mind was this. My original personality is calm, I only focus on improving myself, and the company rarely engages in marketing. So he has hardly had any direct conflicts within the circle. But it's not a big deal for home. It can only be said that being too excellent in this circle is also a sin. Unlike most home buyers who rely on covert marketing to smear the original identity. Wei Yang and his company, Sunshine Entertainment, are on the table. Wei Yang and Sunshine Entertainment are also the top performers on Yige Er's godly list. Seal number. Pure divided by company. In the drama where her original identity was mocked by the group, Chun divided by played the second male character. The reason why Genshin Impact was able to attract such a large amount of criticism is entirely due to the manipulation of Pure divided by and Pure divided by companies. During that period, the internet was filled with marketing slogans praising purity. Pure divided by just relied on a bad drama to become popular in the second tier, which is truly a marketing achievement. Wang Huizhong explained, "We didn't consider your feelings beforehand, but the contract has already been signed." He is still quite regretful now. Originally, Li was the person who intervened midway, thinking of being unrelated and using this to stir-fry a wave of cold rice. But after just 2 days of recording, Li has become an indispensable character in Wang Huizhong's heart program. I was worried about the gap in my mind in the future, so I directly spoke it out. Li also understood Wang Huizhong's thoughts and just nodded without saying anything. He wasn't very angry, but he had already figured out how to receive the guests tomorrow. But when others hype you up, you can't just say it's okay, can you? This is a matter of principle. What should I do if I give up once and others think it's easy to talk? Wang Huizhong also understood this truth and didn't put on the airs of a great variety show director. If you have any requirements, you can let me know. This time, our program team didn't consider it carefully. Li shook his head and said, "I didn't ask, Director Wang." Wang Huizhong thought for a moment and said seriously, "Well, we are currently having a very pleasant cooperation, so I won't be exaggerating either. I guarantee that Wei Yang's performance on the program won't be very outstanding this time. That is to say, even if Wei Yang's program is very effective, Wang Huizhong will not let him appear in the final film." To be honest, Li was quite surprised. I didn't expect Wang Huizhong to value him so much. But it's not necessary. After all, with Wei Yang's delicate and tender traffic, it's hard to say on other programs. In 3 meals a day, Li can definitely give him a good lesson. However, Wang Huizhong said so, and Li also accepted his kindness. Record the 3rd day in the morning. Young Jie has a habit of getting up early. Although she was tired from working all day yesterday, she still got up before 8 o'clock in the morning. Beating her neck and rubbing her waist, young Jie arrived at the yard. She thought she was the first to wake up, but she didn't expect to see a figure who had been busy in the kitchen for a long time. Li is already making breakfast. The mushroom house in the morning was relatively refreshing, but the kitchen was narrow and the stove was still burning, making it stuffy and hot. Li Yi's forehead was covered in sweat, and he occasionally reached out to wipe it with a calm and serious expression. Young Jie had to admit that this young man had a bit of charm. This is not just a man cooking breakfast, but rather a handsome and young man cooking breakfast. A loose white T-dot shirt and black sports shorts, very homely to wear, wearing them on his body gives him a unique charm. After silently watching for a while, young Jie stood at the kitchen door and greeted, "Brother Yi, wake up so early." Looking at the sound, Li also smiled and replied, "Going to bed early and getting up early is good for your health. I'm used to it." In fact, he used to stay up late, but now that he has the conditions, he must pay attention to his health. This is a good habit. Young Jie fully agrees. Some young people I know like to stay up late and don't listen to any advice. Li Yi flipped the fried eggs in the pot and said, "There's nothing we can do. Some people have unstable working hours. For example, it's common for me to stay up until 3 or 4 in the morning while filming night scenes. Some people are too busy with work during the day and only have their own time at night." In his previous life, he also stayed up late because he didn't have his own time during the day. Finally, he added, "However, staying up late really hurts the body." Young Jie said, "Then your actors work harder than us singers." Li couldn't believe this and said with a smile, "It's okay, there are many people who work harder than us. At least we can get satisfactory compensation." Young Jie listened for a moment, not sure if it would be cut later on. Can this be said in the program? Yesterday, the two of them didn't actually have much conversation, and in just a little while, her impression of Li Yi deepened a lot. Not only is it young and healthy, but people are also very bold. The two of them didn't chat for long, and soon breakfast was ready. They shouted to the others to get up and have breakfast. In this program, you can even skip work, but you can't miss breakfast on time. As for lunch and dinner, there is no way to delay them due to some things. Life is like this. Today's breakfast is braised beef noodles, with 1 fried egg per person, which took a total of 5 working hours. It's simply luxury. After knowing the price, the two guests even doubted whether the members of the mushroom house had malicious intentions. Smelling the fragrant braised beef noodles and looking at the crispy golden fried eggs, I dare not put down my chopsticks. Zhang Lei couldn't help but know their thoughts and said disdainfully, "All right, let's finish eating and leave quickly. Don't hinder us from receiving the next batch of guests." As soon as they heard this, the two of them didn't hesitate and immediately started fighting. After a full meal, young Jie touched her stomach and sighed, "If I were 10 years younger and unmarried, I would definitely pursue my younger brother. Where can I find a man who is handsome, hardworking, speaks well, and has good cooking skills?" Zheng Chaoyang joked, "Are you really not afraid of your husband's jealousy? How many words have you said since yesterday that your older brother looks handsome? You're telling the truth, okay?" Young Jie clearly had a high family status and was not afraid. Faced with praise, Li Yi's expression remained calm, holding his head in both hands and even yawning. Zhaozuiyuan.com Lin Dan couldn't bear to watch anymore and patted him, "All right, just laugh if you want. Hee hee." Li Yi immediately revealed his true form. Immediately, a burst of laughter came from the yard. In a nanny car heading towards the mushroom house. The agent advised, "Yang, behave well when you go. Those two teachers and director Wang are both big shots, with a more positive attitude and a lower posture. There are only 3 main characters in the program, and the company is making efforts to see if we can make you stay. Although the future of this program is uncertain, just focusing on networking is worth fighting for." The agent felt uneasy and said, "Be clever, don't be overshadowed by Li. Don't worry, Red Sister." Li Yi can't even hold back 3 sentences from interviews with a few people. Can I still be suppressed by him? Wei Yang was full of confidence. Agent Hong nodded. As a manager who couldn't help but beg for Li, she also had a good understanding of him. The external conditions are good, the acting skills are online, and the fan stickiness is also high. With a proper top-notch posture, it is still the kind of sustainable development. He has an introverted personality, is quiet and lacks a sense of humor. However, if signed under her command, she has confidence in training Yige Er well. Red Sister still feels regretful that the company did not sign Yige Er. There's no way, what you can't get is to destroy it. Upon thinking about it, Red Sister couldn't help but dislike Wei Yang. If Lee also has such marketing efforts, even if he is not at the top, he wouldn't still be in the second tier, right? Do you still have a sense of superiority towards others? Do you really believe in boasting about your own manuscript? 8. Handsome, you guys. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Not long after Yang Jie and Zheng Chaoyang left, new guests arrived. Teacher Zhang, Teacher Lin, long time no see. A woman in her 30s walked towards her. Upon seeing this woman, Li Yi's first impression was confidence, generosity, beauty, and maturity. Every move and gesture seemed to emanate a charming aroma of fruit wine, like a ripe fruit. The woman's name is Lin Zixuan, and she has won 2 Best Actress awards at the Golden Dragon Film Awards in China. It can be said that she has won many awards both domestically and internationally, both big and small. She is a genuine actress. There is also a girl named Zhang Yige Er, a new generation of Xiaohua, who is also Li Yi's younger sister. Zhang Lei and Lin Dan both know each other and greet each other happily. Senior, long time no see. Zhang Yige Er turned her head and waved to Li Yi with a smile like a flower. Have you ever worked together before? Oh, by the way, both Yige Er and Yige Er graduated from Beijing Film Academy, Lin Dan said suddenly. Yes, I'm 1 year older than Yige Er. Li Yi suddenly remembered something, and it seemed that Zhang Yige Er used to like herself. But it's been almost 2 years since they debuted, and having seen the colorful world of the entertainment industry, I'm sure they don't have this idea anymore. Yige Er. Lin Zixuan looked at Li Yi's face with some curiosity, and then her eyes lit up. Even in her eyes, it must be said that this is a handsome guy. Leading family big boy. Ultimate Edition. In the mushroom room, he is our brother. Lin Dan joked. Yes, I call them uncle and they call me brother, each with their own opinions. Li's additional explanation made everyone laugh uncontrollably. Zhang Lei pretended to be angry and said, Uncle, are we so old? You also call us brothers. Go on, Lei Gu, Dan Gu. Li Yi's expression, which was really helpless with you, once again made everyone laugh out loud. Zhang Yige Er blinked her beautiful eyes, covered her mouth and chuckled lightly, while feeling surprised by Li Yi's changes in her heart. As far as she knows, Li Yi is not so humorous, just a bookworm learning to perform. Bringing the 2 of them into the living room, Lin Dan poured them water and looked at the 2 beautifully dressed guests. He couldn't help but say, why didn't you mention it in advance when you came to the program? I want to give you a surprise. Lin Zixuan took a cold sip and opened her mouth. There are surprises, but you guys are miserable. Lin Dan shook his head and talked about his experiences over the past 2 days. When Lin Dan mentioned that they worked in the fields for 5 or 6 hours yesterday, Lin Zixuan was a bit surprised. No wonder I think you're a bit dark. Is your program so real? I thought it was just a passing act. Lin Dan immediately patted his followers and said, cut out the following sentence. The other party compared okay. It's okay, isn't it like this in reality shows? I'm not afraid, Lin Zixuan smiled nonchalantly. Lin Dan couldn't help but change the topic with her mouth and said, so are you ready? No. It's done. Lin Zixuan and Zhang Yige Er walked in front of each other, but the latter's voice clearly lacked confidence. Zhang Lei smiled and said, Yige Er, what are you afraid of? Follow your cousin. If someone scolds you then, they will also scold your cousin. Lin Zixuan opened her hand to protect Zhang Yige Er and said, Teacher Zhang, please don't lead a bad child. Li Yi also now knows that these two people are actually cousins. My cousin is almost 10 years old when she is older. After chatting for a while, Wei Yang arrived. This kid is very naughty. He has a big back, wears sunglasses, and even wears a pair of boots on hot days. I saw him take off his sunglasses with one hand and wave to everyone with big white teeth. His overall appearance seemed to have been carefully rehearsed, with a hint of deliberate handsomeness. Everyone, including Yige Er, can see that there is a lot of drama in this person. Undoubtedly pure, Li also envies the other party's shameless and unpleasant tone. I'm so handsome, right? Wei Yang was pleasantly surprised to find that today's flying guests included Lin Zixuan and Yige Er, and felt that his designed appearance movements were simply making a fortune. After a few polite words, Lin Dan continued the topic just now, and Wei Yang also learned that this program was so popular, which made him feel a bit scared. Actually, all the guests know that this program requires working underground and exchanging labor for ingredients. But they never thought that they would need to plant seedlings for several hours just for a day's food. Isn't reality show just a show? You ordered a total of 6 dishes, which will take 18 working hours, as well as the ingredients for lunch. If you fill your stomach casually, there will still be some beef left in the morning, which can be taken care of in 2 or 3 working hours. Lin Dan calculated the accounts, leaving several guests stunned. How many hours of work do you really need to go down to the ground? Lin Zixuan doubted her life. She was just here to support her friend's new variety show, why did she become a laborer? Yige Er's face has collapsed, and she did her beauty and skincare yesterday. Lin Zixuan asked in a muffled tone, can I assume I haven't ordered anything before? They said no. Lin Dan pointed to the staff. Li Yi first glanced at Wei Yang and waited for him to notice his gaze before saying, let's take a break after lunch. Let's first set up a pavilion, set up a chicken coop and dog house, and then go to work when the sun is not up. I.e., this is not possible. Wei Yang's goal this time was to suppress Li Yi. Seeing him speak, he instinctively wanted to refute, if you want to wait until it's not revealed, you might have to go by 4 or 5 o'clock. Let's start now. After speaking, he looked at the others and found that no one paid any attention to him. Big fool, it's already noon. Are you going down to work? Wei Yang is also satisfied. It's almost time to order food, and how can he let seniors and girls work? He immediately said, why don't we have lunch later, take a break for a while, and Li and I will go first. A few teachers first set up the pavilion in the mushroom room. Ie and I are both big men and not afraid of sunburn. You haven't even baited the hook, are you really eating it? Li also wants to laugh, pure divided by is pure divided by, and what he does is not something that people do. This behavior is no less than when someone suddenly calls on the teacher to assign more homework after class. Zhang Lei and Lin Dan exchanged a glance, while the latter secretly tugged. The former persevered and said, there's plenty of work here, you don't need to put in a lot of effort all at once. I worked all day yesterday, take a break. Who knew Wei Yang was even more enthusiastic, foolishly patting his chest and saying, it's okay, Teacher Zhang. If I needs to rest, I can go by myself, but I need I to teach me first. Thank you so much for being so foolish. Li couldn't believe it and looked at Wei Yang. How could anyone be so foolish? It's even more unbearable to see such people earning hundreds or even millions of dollars a year than to lose money on their own. Li also didn't expect his plan to go so smoothly. Zhaozuiyuan.com. This guy not only jumped into the pit without blinking, but also buried himself by the way. Let's go out at 2 o'clock then. Li Yi's expression was very helpless, perfectly interpreting what it means to be morally kidnapped. And Wei Yang smiled happily, with a look of, praise me quickly. The former causes sympathy, while the latter causes physical discomfort. Lin Zixuan looked at Wei Yang and whispered in Yige Er's ear, never be so foolish as him. You guys are so handsome. Wei Yang felt even more proud when he noticed Lin Zixuan's gaze. He looked at Li Yi with a superior gaze, not knowing what was wrong with him this time. After lunch, Zhang Lei and Lin Dan found an opportunity to call Li Yi aside. "Xiao Yi, you don't have to worry that this is recording a program," said Zhang Lei. They also learned about Li Yi and Wei Yang from Wang Huaizhong last night. "I thought that if the program didn't hype up, it wouldn't have any impact. When it comes to filming, there won't be any cameras, and Sunshine Entertainment can't get started if they want to hype up. I never expected that Wei Yang could be such a demon." They didn't spend much time with Li Yi, but after all, they ate and lived together, and they also had a certain understanding of Li Yi's temperament and personality. "He is a good person. Although I have been shouting hard and tiring all along, I work harder and more seriously than anyone else. I am also able to joke and speak and do things without causing any resentment. How can such a person not let their hearts be filled with feelings of protecting the calf? Now it's like being bullied and coming home." Moreover, Zhang Lei and Lin Dan quite agree with Wang Huaizhong's views. The importance of the program to Li is self-evident, they are now their own people. If it weren't for being pulled down by Lin Dan just now, Zhang Lei wouldn't want to get used to it on the spot. 9. It's okay. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Do whatever you want. If he still wants to be a demon, I'll just let him go. Zhang Lei is very domineering. He was born into a performing arts family and has a deep network of people. He is really not afraid to do such a thing. There's no need to make such a fuss. Lin Dan thought for a moment and said, "Alright, let's say later that Yi is not feeling well. Just let him go to the field alone and see what he can do." Li was also somewhat surprised. Zhang Lei's personality was the reason, after all, someone came to cause trouble on the show, which was not to give him face. But Lin Dan is a well-known gentleman in the entertainment industry, how could he even help him stand out? Although they don't know how to cook, they eat a lot, work hard, and even snore and grind their teeth while sleeping. But he's really a good person. Silently sending out a good person card, Li also refused the help of the two. No need, you don't have to worry. Today, I plan to get involved with him, there's no need to criticize him. Wei Yang and his company have a first-class level of playing marketing. If Li Yi doesn't go together, it's uncertain what kind of person he will be smeared. At that time, the production team, as well as others, will be affected. Although Li Yi is not familiar with the specific situation of Wei Yang's family, it is easy to see that this person has never suffered. How long can this kind of person sustain farming work? So Li Yi used this method of injuring 1,000 enemies and self-harming 800. Now there are still two big brothers who want to help out, and Li Yi has some sympathy for Wei Yang. "It's all my people, how can you play with me?" Li also once again expressed his gratitude to the two older brothers and hummed a tune back to the room to rest. After a little thought, Zhang Lei realized that Li Yi's method seemed really good. Although Li didn't complain too much and always wanted to find opportunities to slack off, he did behave very easily. Today, everyone has back pain and soreness. It's either uncomfortable here or there. Li is the only one who enjoys it, it's not a big deal. And Li was definitely the one who did the most work. When everyone went to the fields, the seedlings in their hands were gone, and he was basically helping to pick them up. He also chopped the firewood. As young Jie said, "This young man has a great body." Zhang Lei and Lin Dan exchanged a glance and understood each other's gaze. This kid is really cruel to himself. Although Li Yi can work, he also genuinely wants to be lazy. "I've pushed myself to this point, it's really tough." After a short rest, it was already 2 o'clock, and the sun was still glaring. Squinting his eyes outward, Wei Yang felt a bit hesitant as the sunlight glared. But Li has already gotten up and put on ice sleeves, so he doesn't have a chance to regret it at all. After going out, feeling the temperature and burning sensation of ultraviolet rays. Li also regretted it and kept cursing himself for being foolish in his heart. Zhang Lei said to let Wei Yang go, "Why should I show off? Although the mushroom house doesn't have air conditioning, at least it has a fan." Then from a distance, I saw several figures busy in the farmland. "Damn it, Chun divided by, let's see how long you can withstand it." Li also turned around and glanced at Wei Yang wearing sunglasses. Wei Yang was already sweating profusely, and his body was scorching from the sun. Moreover, the insoles and water shoes were not very compatible, making walking uncomfortable. Arriving at the seedling field, Li also demonstrated and the two quickly filled 2 baskets of seedlings. Wei Yang was very unhappy with Li Yi's portrayal of the teacher, feeling overwhelmed. It happened that a farmer was walking with a pole not far away, trying to learn from him. Picking up the pole on the field ridge, he took a horse stance, pouted his butt, and shouldered it. "Hey!" Embarrassingly, Wei Yang exerted so much force that his trachea made a sound, and the basket fell only 3 or 4 centimeters off the ground again, narrowly avoiding twisting his waist. He didn't feel embarrassed and turned to Li Yi as if nothing had happened. "It's a bit heavy, let's split it into 2 trips and carry it together," he said. "Batman is looking for you all over the world." Li Yi smiled and said, "Let me come." Wei Yang stepped aside, disdainful in his heart. "If you can bear it, I will eat." Directly under Wei Yang's stunned gaze, Li also crouched down, stood up, and walked forward effortlessly carrying the seedlings. No matter how foolish Wei Yang was, he knew he had made a joke and immediately made an excuse when he went to the paddy field. "I have a waist injury. Not to mention, this guy found a good reason, at least there's no problem deceiving his fans." "Then you have to be careful, didn't you get hurt?" Li also looked concerned. Wei Yang remembered that he had not yet expressed his painful expression and shook his head, saying, "No, it's just an old injury. It's just that he can't do heavy work. Fortunately, we are throwing rice seedlings, so our waist won't get tired, unlike planting rice seedlings where we have to bow our waist." Li also blocked his words and then began to demonstrate, "Just throw the seedlings one by one like me, spaced about 20 centimeters apart." After Wei Yang started and there were no issues, Li also went to the other side to start working. Throwing rice seedlings can be considered a relatively easy agricultural task, but it is also relative. For Wei Yang, who has been pampered since childhood and has never experienced hardship, throwing rice seedlings under the scorching sun is the hardest and most tiring job in the world. I also put away my sunglasses. Wiping sweat is too inconvenient. In less than 10 minutes, he felt his body was already a bit heavy, his heart was restless, and he really wanted to escape. But this is recording a program, he must perform well, so he gritted his teeth and insisted. 20 minutes later, Wei Yang's already unpleasant movements slowed down again. After half an hour, he felt as if he had been tied up by the old man's big bundle. He didn't move a few steps, and the stack of seedlings in his hand couldn't be thrown away. "Good guy, I know you're useless, but I didn't expect you to be so useless. Yang, if you can't, go take a break." Li wiped his sweat and said, "I care. Sorry, I have a slight pain in my waist. I'll take a break for now." After all, laziness triumphed over reason, so Wei Yang climbed down the slope and rubbed his waist as he walked towards the field ridge, finding a place with weeds to slightly shade and sit down. He thinks so. "Anyway, my back hurts, so it's natural for me to rest, right?" Li didn't care and continued to throw the seedlings seriously. And Wei Yang rested for just over 10 minutes, and after less than half an hour of work, he said, "I'm so thirsty now. Did I forget to bring water?" "Ah, I forgot. So I'll go back and have a drink of water." "Well, you go ahead and remember to bring water when you come. I'm also thirsty." Li also has a good memory now. How could he forget to bring water when farming in the summer? He did it intentionally. Before, he always hoped that his grandfather would forget to bring water when he went to the field, so that he could use it as an excuse to go back and steal a while his grandfather would impatiently ask him to go and return quickly. As for Wei Yang, judging from his character, he will definitely not come back for a while. It's just that I drank too much water when I went out, making it a bit uncomfortable to hold my urine. Li also looked around and gestured to the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com not to come over and take photos. He went to the place where Wei Yang had just sat, where the grass was higher, and left a silhouette for the camera. Ah! The cameraman's face was full of shock. Although people have 3 anxieties, almost every man has had this experience in the wild. But you are an artist, still recording programs, don't you want to be too visual? Should I take photos or not? On the other hand, Wei Yang did not disappoint Li. He slowly returned to the mushroom house and finished drinking water, without any rush to leave. First, I washed my face, wiped my body with a towel, and then blew a fan in the living room. After a while, I walked out of the yard and asked the people building the pavilion if they needed any help. Are you back? Zhang Lei just realized that Wei Yang had returned. He had just gone to the back of the house with Lin Dan to chop bamboo. What about Xiao Yi? I'm still in the field, I'll come back and have a drink of water, now I'll go back. Duo Lai's wish for a while fell through, and Wei Yang had to walk back to the paddy field. In the paddy field, Li also wiped away his sweat and asked the camera brother in distress, I'm so thirsty. Have you brought any water? The camera guy took out an empty water bottle from his pocket, indicating that he had just finished drinking. Then he took a few steps closer, zoomed in and focused on Li Yi's face. In the camera, it can be seen that Li Yi's face is slightly sunburned and his lips are dry and cracked. Perfect coordination. About half an hour later, Wei Yang returned. Li Yi asked, where's the water? I'm so thirsty. Wei Yang awkwardly spread out his hands and said, sorry, I forgot. Under the sun, the sunny boy's expression froze slightly, his throat throbbed, and he remained silent for a few seconds. He licked his cracked lips and forced out a smile, it's okay. 10. A good woman. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Absolutely, absolutely. The cameraman wanted to shoot the camera directly at Li Yi's face. If you were filming a movie or TV drama, Li Yi's performance in this segment is definitely worthy of a burst of acting evaluation. What's even more precious is that this is a real scene that happened, and the cameraman is willing to call it a classic. Glancing at the camera with the corner of his eye, Li also calmed down and realized that the wonderful performance was not in vain. I have to thank myself for the valuable performance experience left by my original body, and the camera sense is perfect. In fact, the part he just played was not entirely in his performance. He was really thirsty, and he never expected Wei Yang, who was going back to drink water, to forget to bring water. The real reaction has undergone artistic processing, creating such a classic scene. Wei Yang also felt a sense of guilt and was about to say that he would go back and take it again. But on second thought, it's not good to slack off again this time when we go back, it's just a wasted journey. But I think Teacher Lin and his team are almost finished building the pavilion, and they're probably coming soon. If you're not so thirsty, why don't you hold on for now? Wei Yang thought of such a good reason and wanted to give himself a thumbs up. I endured NM. Li also endured and took it. Is this guy really human? Li also felt that he was making a big deal out of a molehill. There was no need to use this method of harming the enemy by 1000 and self-harming by 800 to deal with Wei Yang. The enemy could completely kill him. I worked hard in Wei Yang this time, but it wasn't long-lasting enough. In less than half an hour, I said I needed to rest for my back pain. Pure dishes are lazy. Under the reminder of the camera brother, Li also saw the good sitting down in the place where he had placed water before him. He pulled out a piece of grass on the spot, held it in his mouth, and then leaned back with both hands, looking at the sky. I guess I still feel handsome. Li Yi. Fortunately, I've only been getting a little hot lately and haven't tasted the sweetness of this product. He is a bit conflicted and doesn't speak well. But Wei Yang doesn't know either. This segment must not be broadcasted. Broadcasting to Wei Yang will certainly be laughed at by the audience, but Li also doesn't want to be told by netizens that Wei Yang drank his urine. Thinking about it, Li felt nauseous and said, "Wei Yang, there was a cow peeing where you were sitting just now." "Poo poo poo, my grass. Why didn't you say it earlier?" Wei Yang instantly spat out the grass in his mouth, and a carp flew up without any signs of waist injury. Then, he squatted on the field ridge, retching and shedding tears. "I was working and didn't pay attention," Li said lightly, blocking Wei Yang's full of complaints. Not long after, Lin Dan came with Zhang Yige Er. Fortunately, they brought water out of the house, and Li quickly asked them for water to drink. He filled a 500 milliliters cup with half a bottle. Upon seeing this, Zhang Yige Er realized that the senior had been out for so long without drinking water. She was dissatisfied with Wei Yang and said, "Didn't you go back to drink water? Why didn't you bring water for brother Yi?" Li also gave a thumbs up in his heart, "Good woman. I forgot, thinking that you were also coming soon and didn't go back to pick it up," Wei Yang defended himself. With a snort, Zhang Yige Er ignored Wei Yang and cautiously stepped into the paddy field, coming to Li Yi's side to teach her how to throw rice seedlings. Lin Dan didn't speak, but he, who usually treats people like a spring breeze, didn't give Wei Yang a good face. He thought the other party was intentional. The three of them laughed and talked, and Wei Yang felt isolated. He could always feel a smell of cow urine on his body and mouth, which made him want to cry. The sky is getting late. After throwing away the seedlings, it was a repetitive process, filling in the gaps and finally sprinkling unknown fertilizers, and the group began their journey back. Unconsciously, they filled up a large part of the empty paddy field. Dinner was done by Lin Zixuan, Zhang Yige Er, and Li together. From Lin Zixuan's mouth, Li also heard a sentence that seemed to have been heard before. "Not only do I have to work in the fields, but I also have to cook. What am I here for? Sister, why don't you take the lead and go against it? I don't even think about this terrible day anymore." Li was too lazy to mess with Wei Yang, and he recovered from being a rolling king to his previous state. Lin Zixuan and Zhang Yige Er were both stunned for a moment, then burst out laughing at the same time. Li continued in a serious tone, "I'm serious, sister. We don't lack this strength, do we? So, you can learn from me." Li also gestured for them to look over and said, "Just make it alone, eat it as a group, don't make it anymore." He threw the garlic onto the table. "Goose, goose, goose, goose," Lin Zixuan chuckled and couldn't stop. Zhang Yige Er couldn't help but laugh and cry. "Where has my senior, who is a straight steel guy, gone? But why does that dead youth have a feeling of resurgence?" She inexplicably felt that at this moment, Li, who was good at talking and humorous, seemed to be more charming than the former senior high school student. Li is also playing with his treasures, and from time to time, laughter and joy can be heard in the kitchen, revealing a hint of life's tiredness and joy. During this period, Wei Yang, who was unwilling to become a transparent person, walked in and out of the kitchen several times without saying a word. In the end, Lin Zixuan got annoyed and kicked him out because he was in the way. Li also felt from the bottom of his heart that these sisters were good women. Dinner was eaten in the newly built pavilion today. The yard is brightly lit, and the night sky is dotted with stars. If you ignore the unknown bugs flying around, the atmosphere is quite good, at least everyone is chatting happily. Only Wei Yang was gloomy and unhappy. He has been trying hard to find topics and brush his presence. Although everyone would take his words, they never followed his words and immediately stopped talking. Causing Wei Yang to say a lot, but it seems like he didn't say anything. Although he was isolated, he appeared to be talkative and awkward, disrupting the atmosphere. When it was time to go to bed, Li naturally chose to lay a floor in the living room. He didn't want to work hard all day and couldn't sleep well. Wei Yang felt that there was an opportunity to perform, saying that he had tried even the toughest conditions when filming. The implication behind the scenes was that Li also had many things to do. But within 2 minutes of entering the room, he regretted it. Zhang Lei and Lin Dan perfectly explained what it means to fall asleep on the head. At the moment the room turned off the lights, it seemed as if a tractor was starting to ignite. After a while, the tractor began to roar, and there were 2 horses riding on it. Wei Yangren was foolish, but the words had already been spoken and he could only hypnotize himself with his eyes closed. This night, Wei Yang had an extremely agonizing time. He didn't even know if he was sleeping or not. In the morning, Wei Yang woke up like a zombie walking with him, finished breakfast numbly, left the mushroom house, and got into the nanny car. Wei Yang was still in a daze. "Are you okay with the recording?" It wasn't until his agent, Red Sister, asked that Wei Yang woke up as if from a big dream. "Yeah, I went to record a program, but what did I record?" 3 meals a day left him with only memories of exhaustion, isolation, and cow urine trampling on horses. "What's wrong? Didn't you rest well last night?" said Red Sister with concern, thinking of what happened yesterday. Wei Yang felt aggrieved and wanted to cry. He immediately complained to Red Sister. It was said that Li was also isolated by other guests, and in the end, she demanded that Red Sister not let the company operate his stay on the show. Upon hearing the latter half, Red Sister's expression immediately darkened. "Yesterday, I just ran into a nose of dust at Wang Huizhong's place. Today, Wei Yang said something disrespectful to her." Red Sister smiled angrily and said, "They didn't want you, are you still not wanting to stay?" "Hee hee.